Welcome back, all you kings, queens, and in-betweens, to another Boruto Two Blue Vortex video here on the channel. Chapter 7 just came out, and I'm here to walk you through it and give you my thoughts. We start off with the cover art. We got Mitsuki looking kind of disheveled. He is probably my least favorite design after the time skip out of all the characters that we've seen so far. And we transition right into what we expected. We have the conflict between Mitsuki and Boruto. But first, Mitsuki's got to wax poetic about his son and how he is the moon. He has no light of his own and he needs a sun to allow him to shine. And Kawaki, given his personality, he is not someone who is in a good position to be taking on the position of Mitsuki's son. And with Kawaki reflecting on him, that's going to lead to a much darker version of Mitsuki. And we see that he's edgier, he's darker, he's more violent than the version of the character that we knew from prior to the time skip and prior to Omnipotence switching their places. The fight goes just about as we would expect it. We see some back and forth, some shuriken being thrown by Boruto, those giant sage snakes being used in the conflict to try and tie up Boruto, but the power difference is just too big between them. We get a bit of dialogue between Boruto and Mitsuki, and then some one-sided dialogue with Shikamaru explaining what happened to Kawaki and why he's not following Mitsuki. We do get confirmation here that Boruto is too strong for Kawaki, leading to what I assumed was the power scaling here, that Boruto is above Kawaki and probably by a decent margin here. Mitsuki seems to think that he has a chance against Boruto, at least if he goes all out, but that proves to not be the case, saying one of the primary reasons that he left Kawaki behind is so that he could let loose without having to defer to him at all. We see those sage snakes turn into snake clones shouted out by Boruto, but despite some impressive explosions and some destruction of trees, Boruto handles them pretty easily and without really doing much besides sheathing and unsheathing his sword. We get more confirmation on how fast Boruto is, which has been made pretty clear since the beginning of Two Blue Vortex. And we see a clash of lightning techniques, Snake Lightning versus Boruto's Thunderbolt. They cancel out easily in the middle, but we can see that Boruto's not really going all out in this fight. The fight finally ending with a blade to Mitsuki's neck, which Boruto has no intention of killing him with. Then we get the conversation we assumed we were going to get between Boruto and Mitsuki, where Boruto discusses about the fact that Kawaki can't possibly be his son and that he himself is Mitsuki's son. Kind of talk no jutsuing, pulling a technique out of his father's book to try and get Mitsuki to doubt the things that he's thinking and dredge up those feelings that Boruto knows are deep within him, all those doubts of having followed Kawaki around for the last 3 years, and there's this distance, which makes it very obvious that Kawaki can't possibly be his son. It feels wrong, and Boruto knows that and dredges up those feelings inside Mitsuki. The conversation finally hitting, "I'm your son." It's that simple. Boruto allows himself to get constricted by the snake, and Mitsuki knows that he allowed it, that he would be able to escape if he wanted to. But this conversation was important and it needed to happen, so Boruto had to put himself in that position and allow himself to get captured. Mitsuki eventually drops the technique, lets the snake go, and we finally get Boruto explaining to Mitsuki that he didn't kill the 7th Hokage, that Lord 7th is alive and safe, and that his mother is also safe. He kind of starts saying mom, but then backtracks and says his wife, meaning Naruto's wife. He parts from Mitsuki by telling him that he's perfectly capable of shining on his own, but if he insists on needing a son, then to come find him anytime. We see this bond that is strong between Mitsuki and Boruto, and it's managing to transcend some of the influence of Omnipotence because of how strong it is. Mitsuki has kind of lived his life entirely around the model that Boruto set out for him. He created his whole code and everything on how he lives and how he is as a shinobi because of what Boruto was to him, and that was his son. And all of that's gotten twisted now that Kawaki has been his son for the last 3 years. Kawaki finally wakes up and realizes that it was Mitsuki who knocked him out, but we don't get any development on that end because we jump into the conversation between Shikamaru and Naruto, confirming everything that Shikamaru suspected, that the two of them had switched places and that Boruto is not the fugitive that everyone believes him to be and that even himself believes him to be. Boruto gets to explain everything about Omnipotence, but we find out that even when Omnipotence is mentioned, it eventually fades from your memory, which kind of explains what's happened over the last 3 years when Sarada and Sumire have continued continued to try and talk to Shikamaru about this problem. In the very first chapter, we saw Sarada kicking in the door of Shikamaru's Hokage office and spouting out about Boruto and all the stuff that was wrong with the situation between him and Kawaki. And we got this sense that this wasn't the first time she had done it, but now we kind of get an explanation on how she could have been doing this for 3 years, but still made no progress in convincing anybody. Boruto does praise Shikamaru a bit for figuring this out on his own, but explains that they can't reverse the process, and even if they could, it doesn't settle anything between him and Kawaki. That Kawaki sealed Naruto away, and he needs him to undo it. And despite Shikamaru saying that he should just kill Kawaki, Boruto says he just wants to slug him and then make up, that they're bros. But since that's how Boruto wants to handle it, that means that he's gonna have to keep living as a fugitive. And Boruto says that's fine because he wasn't expecting anything otherwise. Then we move into the end of the chapter and we see that Jura has been reading and learning about this world so he can try and gain more knowledge and answer the questions that he has, but none of the books are doing anything for him. None of them have the answers to the questions that he wants. So we end on the ominous panel saying that they're going to visit Naruto. I assume we're going to get this in the next chapter, considering we've settled the immediate issue with Mitsuki and Boruto. We're kind of in a lull there. So we're in the perfect position for Jura to kind of move in and either get Kawaki to allow him into the dimension or get in there on his own through some other means. The assumption is that Jura is Jigen, so going under that assumption, maybe there's a possibility that he'd be able to access that dimension because Jigen and Ishiki were also able to create the Daikokuten. I'm excited to see where the next chapter brings us, and I've really been enjoying Two Blue Vortex so far. There's a lot of room for speculation, a lot of theories floating around, and as hard as it is to wait in between these chapters, which is a month-long wait, it's great that every chapter that's come out has been a jam-packed experience with plenty of questions getting answered and enough intrigue left over where we still have questions after the manga chapter ends. I think Two Blue Vortex has been firing on all cylinders, and I'm super excited to see what comes next. If you're excited to see what comes next, then like the video, let me know, comment down below. What are your thoughts on the chapter? What are your theories? Let's get a dialogue going down in the comments. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of this Boruto content going forward, and don't forget to check out all of the should you watch content that we have for the winter 2024 anime season. Also, don't forget to ring that bell so you know what's up, and we'll catch you in the next one.